strong once again, you guys. We are Tottenham Army, the best derby in the world. Let's see what we got. Let's see what they got.
Okay, so Richard P6V7Z said, so the fact we're getting business in early is obviously good, but I won't get too excited yet. If we take away the optimism, this is all still classic Enic. On paper, you could argue we've actually slightly weakened our first choice defence by signing Senesi and Van Hecke while selling Romero, Dragshin and maybe Vuskovic. Don't put that past Enic in brackets. We'll be turning a big profit. Let's see what else they do before we get too excited. Example, Savinho is our only big winger purchase. Will not be a successful window. Romero struggled last year, but he'll go to a bigger club and do well as he's ultimately a good player. On the other hand, I'm not totally against selling him, mainly as I think he's now been very unfairly marked by Prem refs, and that's a hard reputation to shift for players once it takes hold. If this is all part of a much bigger plan, then it's definitely a good start, but maybe I am too scared by Enic to allow myself to believe that it is yet.
Yeah, scarred by Enic. I think we all are scarred by Enic, to be honest. And I do get where he's coming from, because I'm definitely looking to the future of this window much more apprehensively than maybe I would with the start that we have had. Yeah, look, it's a hard one to judge, and I was saying to Daigle yesterday, you can't judge anything just yet. The transfer window hasn't even opened yet. You got to let it all play out, and you got to wait till the end of the window to judge it. Right now, it's way too early. I don't think we've downgraded the defence at all, because you're looking at the players that we've brought in. We've brought in players that we've been desperately needing for so long. We've desperately needed cover at left centre-back, and now we've got two, which we don't mind starting. We've got cover for a doggy or whoever you think he's going to start or not in Andy Robertson. Yeah, look, I'm still on the fence with Andy Robertson, but at least it's a left-back and a Premier League proven left-back to come in. We're bringing in Van Hecke, who I think is a top-quality addition to the team as well. So I think when you're looking at cover, yeah, maybe Van Hecke's a slight downgrade on Romero, but if you put everything in it together in terms of what they both bring you on and off the pitch, availability, erratic behaviour, the sendings off, all this kind of stuff, maybe Van Hecke is a slight upgrade in that sense. So I don't think we've downgraded the defence. I think we've upgraded our defence.
Yeah, I don't look at the defence as being downgraded on. I do think Romero is a better player than Van Hecke. That's my opinion. I think he is slightly worse, but if you look, would you rather Romero and Dragashin, if we are to sell Dragashin, that is, Romero and Dragashin or Van Hecke and Senesi? And I think I'd rather Van Hecke and Senesi. You get two quality players there, whereas with the other side, you get one very good player and one awful player, and that very good player as well has a tendency to get sent off and has problems with availability and also injuries. He's also had quite a few injuries as well, people who don't talk about. So I don't see that as a downgrade. I don't see that defence as a downgrade. I think overall, you look at the outline of our defence, and when you put Robertson in there as well, I think it's so much better balanced with those four, and the cover at fullback as well. I think the defence is in a much better place than it was last season, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Tiara Supersonic says, you guys must get away of thinking a midfield needs a 6 and an 8. It depends on the system and the strategy you play and the ability the players bring. And combined together, we don't need an explicit 6. We need a ball-playing first midfielder. Do we need to stop thinking, oh, this one's 6, that's an 8, that's this, that's that? I mean, to be fair, you think of De Zerbi's team at Brighton, he didn't really... I mean, he had Caicedo, but they didn't really play with like a proper 6. Everyone was just, took turns. They were very fluid. Sometimes they played played Gross and Gilmore. They've played in double pivot, with no 6, and that had good performances with that as well. Like, maybe it's not about, oh, we need a 6, we need that. Maybe in certain scenarios, like when we played with Ange, we had like an anchoring player with 2 runners. Then you need like a 6, but we didn't play that under De Zerbi, did we? Last season, we didn't play with really one anchor. We played with just 2 midfielders covering the spaces. Didn't need maybe a specific 6. We just need someone who's... I don't know. What do you think of what she's saying?
I think he might be spot on. I think he might be spot on. Maybe we don't need that monster 6 that we've been craving all this time. But we most definitely, what I agree with the most is we need someone that can pass the ball to a very high level. That's the key attribute that we need. And, you know, maybe some of the midfielders that we've been speaking about, you know, we brought up that geezer from France a few days ago. Maybe he would be a good one, but, you know, he's a box-to-box midfielder, but with
Lamine Camara.
Yeah, high technical passing ability.
Well, after Belaber, apparently.
Yeah, so we need a passer. That's first and foremost.
Yeah, and that's something that, obviously, in the Premier League, unfortunately, it's hard to get away with not having that physicality. I think there's a few players who maybe kind of get away with it, but they still have a baseline physicality. Like, I think you definitely still need to be pretty physical, good traits, but I think you need both. You need to be technical as well. And we just have players at the moment who their physical level is just much higher than their technical level. We need someone a bit more balanced to both. Deadly Dizzle says, I'm a Spurs fan that lives in Liverpool. The Liverpool fans in the office can't stand Gakpo. They're so frustrated with his decision-making, always predictable, cutting inside and shooting routine, and rarely beats his man on the outside. I don't know if he's an upgrade I don't know if he's the upgrade we want necessarily, but I understand he's a step forward on Tel at the moment.
I think Gakpo, if we were to bring him in, look, I think it's a non-story anyway, because I don't think we'll bring him in. But I think he's better than anything that we've got on that side by far. And I think, yeah, fine, Liverpool fans were frustrated with him this season, but I think they were frustrated with a lot of players this season. I think if you cast your mind back to the year they won the league, I think they were delighted with him. I think he had a great season that year. So I think last year he had a bit of a poor season. But he's been at, what, Liverpool 4 years now? This is 4 years just gone?
Yeah.
And I think he had 3 very good years there. So I think you're talking about Gakpo as a very good player, Premier League proven player, a player that you know that can score and assist. So, yeah, I don't think Spurs fans should be sniffing their nose up at Cody Gakpo because of a poor season. The guy has big quality about him.
I agree. I think the frustration with him is something I mentioned the last time we talked about him, is he is quite a selfish player. He's a player who does love to cut inside and shoot, even when from improbable angles, and he kind of spams shots in on goal, even when there are better options there. So I think if you're someone who maybe isn't a massive fan of his, he can massively frustrate you when he's constantly doing that. And I think last season as well, there was a lot of pressure on him and focus on him because Salah wasn't doing it. They've obviously sold Diaz. Obviously, you know, one with Jota happened. They lost Nunez. They lost a lot of attackers. Isak wasn't doing it as well. Ekitike was, but then he got injured. So a lot of the focus was on Gakpo to kind of be their star man. And Liverpool weren't functioning that well as a team. So his standards and his quality wasn't maybe at the level that it could have been if he was in a more functioning team than last season. So I think maybe he's harshly looked at for last season, Gakpo, but I see a player who's got lots of quality, a proven goal contributor in the Premier League. I think if we were to get him, he would do a really great job, and someone who you're pretty confident he'll get you 15 at least goal contributions next season. Darren Fearon says, I don't think spending money has ever been a problem. It's what we spend our money on. It's the problem. You can get world strikers for the world-class strikers for the price that we paid for Richie and Solanke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. We've spent a lot of money over the last 3 or 4 years. We spent a lot of money and we finished 17th twice. So that proves the point there.
Exactly. I think when people look at the money and stuff like that, obviously there are problems with our spending, like in terms of how much we spend and how effectively we spend it. But the reality is, they always say that the wage bill correlates with to a really high degree of accuracy. The wage bill correlates with the league table usually, not 100%, but it's quite accurate measurement, and that's why the top 5 are always the top 5 and all this kind of stuff. And Tottenham have, I think, the 6th highest wage bill in the Premier League. So based on that, we should be in and around the top 6. So the fact that we're not is not because the money that we're spending. That's not why we were 17th. It's other factors. Now, why we aren't challenging for the Premier League and that stuff, maybe that's because of the money, because the gap there is quite big. So maybe we're not spending enough money to make up that gap. But are we spending enough money to be in the top 6? I think the money says yes. So it's not just about how much you're spending, it's how you spend it, as this guy says. So I think that's proof in the pudding. Puna Kala says, how can one say that Thomas Frank would have kept us up when we got 1 point out of 15 in our easiest run in our 5 home games against the bottom teams under Frank? Again? How can anyone say that Frank would have kept us up when we got 1 point out of 15 in our easiest run in our 5 games with the bottom teams?
That's exactly what we were saying in the last video when we brought this up. Like, the points per game from start to finish would have kept us up, but that wasn't the trajectory we were on. We were on a terrible trajectory. We would have got relegated probably.
Exactly. So I think it's fanciful to think Frank would have kept us up, honestly, given how we were playing, the results were again. Open-minded, wait until says, keep Romero for 1 season. We can't get an upgrade. We can inflate his value. He suits De Zerbi ball, and his availability is less of an issue 1 game a week. And it doesn't block Vuskovic.
I don't think we can inflate his value, to be honest, because his contract will run down a further year. So I think it will counteract each other. Look, Romero wants to leave. We're happy to sell him. So if the guy wants to leave and he doesn't want to play for us anymore, then sell him. What's the point of keeping him as a prisoner?
But what if I said you keep Romero for a year and it doesn't, then bring in Vuskovic and when he's ready, it doesn't block his pathway?
I would say
and then you save money on
to
Van
keep
Hecke.
a player that doesn't want to play for us.
Well, if you can convince him to play and he deserves it,
I'm fed up of trying to convince him. We did that last summer. And he wants to leave all over again this summer, so let him go.
Or if De Zerbi gets in his ear, says, "Look, we need you."
He's been under De Zerbi for the last 7 games of last season, and he still wants to leave.
Or he didn't play.
Doesn't matter. Let him go.
So, but then you're saving money. You're bringing Vuskovic in.
Mm-hmm. Nah, I'm kind of done with Romero, man. I'd rather Van Hecke.
I would be open to it.
I know you would.
I'd be open to it if things were different. But look, at the end of the day, we're getting Van Hecke, so there's no point even mulling over it. I think that's where we're going. So I'm not unhappy about it, but I do think Romero is a better player, and it would save money, and it also would create a pathway for Vuskovic right there. So I think it does make sense in a way. But at the end of the day, if he's adamant he wants to leave, I get the feeling also the club do want to get rid. I think from their point of view, like they want the money, and as well, I think from the club's point of view, he's a bit more trouble than he's worth. So I think there's a big willingness from the club to let him go. So at the end of the day, if the relationship's broken down in that sense, there's no point keeping him. Gareth Jones says, earlier video was the great shock about how unusual it is for Spurs to move early in the window, and in this one it is all negative about Enic PR of change. Savinho got 8 assists in the league in his first season, 10th in the league, and would have been 4th most of this season. Don't see how that isn't evidence of end product. Can he be better? Yeah, of course, but he's only really had 1 season in the Prem and then had been a bit part player, but has definitely shown end product ability.
Mm. Yeah, he did show it in the first season, to be fair. I think he got 8 or 9. He got 9 assists? No, 8 assists, he says. I think he showed it, but I think this season was just a bit of a backward step for him. And I think, we kept hearing about how Pep believed in him so much and this and that. And, I just don't think his development has gone the way maybe it's all planned at the end of the day. I think he can have that end product, just hasn't shown it this season. That's all I'm going to say.
I think his development, if his development had gone to plan, he wouldn't be on for sale for Tottenham, would he? We wouldn't be able to get him. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes you've got to take the opportunity. Like if you see there's a real player, then for some reason or another, it hasn't worked out for a City. But if you identify him as a player who you could really help grow and you think has got lots of talent, even if it hasn't worked out at City, doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it. Because there's a lot of players maybe you would be missing out on if you had that approach. You know what I mean?
I'm happy to go for it. I never said once that I don't want to see Savinho in a Spurs shirt. The only thing I've been saying about Savinho, I want to see another one alongside him that maybe is a bit better. But, maybe that's just fanciful thinking. If you're going to bring in a winger for 60 million, he probably is going to be your main winger signing. So, look, I am excited about seeing Savinho in a Spurs shirt. And the more and more, it gets closer and closer, I get more and more excited. But there are those question marks over him. You can't get away from it.
James Delaney says, "Happy birthday, Ben." This was yesterday.
Thank you very much.
We need to take our inner Marinakis on this Vuskovic kid. Tell him you're a Spurs player till we say you can fight for our shirt or sit on the bench. That's your only choice. Come on, you Spurs. Should we go full Marinakis on Vuskovic? Chain him up, threaten him, make sure he ain't going. Tell him you ain't going nowhere.
I don't know. I think this is all a decision led by Roberto De Zerbi. I don't think it's him not wanting to play for Spurs. I think if we were to not sign Van Hecker and say you're our guy and you know, put him in the team, I think he'll be more than happy with that. You know, but the kid wants to play. His development has been doing wonders by playing, and he wants to keep that going. So I can't blame him for that. That's the way it should be. So I think this whole thing about him going, him leaving, is because he doesn't know if he's wanted here at Spurs just yet.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think we want him, but it's all about whether he's ready. Yeah, I think he said it himself. If Tottenham see me as an option for next season, then great. But he hasn't been told that for sure, has he? So I agree with you. I don't think it's not about him wanting to leave or anything like that. It's about him wanting to keep developing on the trajectory that he's developing on. And at the moment, how he's developed has got him to starting at a World Cup at 19 potentially over the summer. That's the likely situation. That's how well he's developed. He's was in the running for Bundesliga Player of the Year. That's how well he's developed. He doesn't want anything to stop that or stagnate that. And why should he? He shouldn't. I think he's absolutely right. So from his point of view, he just wants to play. Doesn't matter. I don't think, obviously he cares where it is, but he doesn't mind if it's at Tottenham or if it's another club. He wants to play football and he wants to keep developing because he knows he's clearly on the trajectory to being a really, really special centre-back.
Exactly, and you can't knock him for that. I think that shows that he's got his head screwed on.
JJ says, it's great if we get this guy, but I think we're going to have a problem with Van de Ven. I think he's talking about it's great if we get Van Hecker, but I think we're going to have a problem with Van de Ven. 85 million to Liverpool and with Romero as well, and quite possibly Vuskovic to Bayern, we may have to reshape the whole defence. Still, I like Phillips, so if he comes in some regard and maybe another purchase, if we have to get rid of all three, we will see how good De Zerbi can be.
Yeah.
He's saying we could potentially lose Van de Ven, Romero and Vuskovic this summer.
I can see Romero and Vuskovic being a possibility, but I don't think we're losing Van de Ven this summer. I think you can clearly see his heart's in it. He's acting as agent to bring Van Hecker over. I think all the words, he's saying all the right things. He looks a lot happier now, speaking in glowing reports of Roberto De Zerbi. So I think Van de Ven is well in this project and excited for next season. Maybe, that conversation can be had about Van de Ven further down the line in a year, 2 years, 3 years, wherever it may be. But for next season, Van de Ven will be here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think we sell him. Unless a really monstrous fee comes in, but I don't think we sell him at all. It'll take 100 million probably to make us consider it. I just can't see us selling Romero, Van de Ven and Vuskovic. I don't think we would do that. That'd be too crazy. So I think the defence is in a good place.
That sold, who is it? Keane, Defoe, Berbatov.
You're right. That was a while ago, though. I think the defence, keep Van de Ven, you get Van Hecker in, you've got Senesi, Robertson. I think the defence is in a good place right now.
Agreed.
And last one, the name is Levy Gone, all of Enic next. Says,
Love that name.
Selling Vuskovic is not acceptable in any terms. Enic out if they decide to profit on him this summer.
Sounds like Enic out before they even decide to profit.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't. There's no. Doesn't sound like there's two ways about it with you.
But no, I agree. It's not acceptable selling Vuskovic with the talent that this boy has, with the trajectory that he is on. It is not acceptable selling him. It really isn't.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the very most we loan him out to a different team, but we shouldn't be accepting offers right now for Vuskovic. The only worry is, the only worry I would say is that let's say we do loan Vuskovic out to a team, an attacking team, let's say Dortmund or something, and he's just getting exposed in that higher line because he can't really cope with it. All of a sudden he goes from like an £80 million player to like half that over 1 year. But
I'm willing to take that risk.
Yeah, true.
Because I think he has, you've predicted him as your breakout star for the World Cup, and if he does that, his value goes up even more.
You're right.
So look, there you have it. Those are your comments. A big up to each and every one of you. Keep them coming in. We'll keep reacting to them. But that is all we have for you guys today. Remember to